Hi everyone, I'm Nikita Doshi. I'm part of the executive committee of NHRD Bangalore chapter. Been associated with NHRD now for last 4 years and also work at Publicis Sapient in the learning team. On behalf of the entire NHRD Mind Matters core team, I welcome you all for NHRD Mind Matters, a movement to promote mental health awareness. And this is a cause where we all at NHRD are very, very passionate about. To talk a little about NHRD, NHRD is a non-profit organization, been there for about 30 years, has 30 chapters, about 13,000 members, and the mission is to promote development amongst HR professionals. You can go to our website, nationalhrd.org, to find more information or to even become a member. Mental well-being is actually becoming a cause of concern today, and hence we have put together this campaign, which is just not restricted for this week, but we will carry on this mental health awareness movement beyond this week. To talk more about our Mind Matters campaign and also to officially launch and inaugurate the Mind Matters, we have Devika Dharmraj. Devika has about 28 years of experience in HR across sectors, including non-profit partner director at Kelsa Solutions. She is a mental health advocate and an accredited instructor in mental health first aid. An XLRI alumni of 1992, she has been working closely with us for last 3 months to curate this entire campaign. With that, now I hand over to David Carr to talk more about this campaign and to launch it.
Thank you, Nikita. Just to put things in perspective for us, I want to share a few statistics before we start off. Yeah. I don't know if people know that the WHO estimates that India will actually, suffer economic losses of over a staggering $1 trillion from mental health conditions, and this is between now and 2030. Just to put it in perspective, depression is apparently the #4 cause of disability in the world. Yeah, and they're saying by 2025 it will be the #2 cause of disability in the world. Yeah, anxiety is something that each of us is currently living with on a daily basis, right? On the other hand, research has shown us that for every dollar put into treatment for mental health disorders, there's a $4 return in improved, health and productivity. Now, NHRD's philosophy, the network's philosophy, has always been around building knowledge, skills, development of human resources. When we realize that there is a treatment gap of nearly 85%, which means that 85% of people with mental health issues do not receive treatment in time that they require. Yeah? And that the main reason behind this is a lack of knowledge, really. And this has led to huge stigma around the subject. We knew that it has to become part of our journey to ensure that NHRD has a role to play in closing that literacy gap. So while the statistics around the lack of adequate mental health care have always been mind-boggling, pre-COVID data said that 42% of our workforce is prone to mental health problems. So can you imagine what it must be like now, post-COVID? Yeah, the pandemic has just made it like top of mind for all of us, and it's become an imperative for everybody, which is why I think everybody is like taking this a little more seriously now than they might have a year ago. Yeah. The dream of this campaign, this Mind Matters campaign, is to reach out to corporate India and ensure that no organization and no employee is left behind in this movement to spread awareness on mental health and to make mental well-being really a strategic health priority, right, in organizations, hoping that this will reduce stigma. And I think in a way to also uphold our responsibilities as corporates and as a society. Needless to say, we are looking at this as a movement. Okay, this is not a one-time, one-week thing. We're looking at it as a movement year on year. Hopefully everybody will pitch in and make that happen. And we're confident that corporate India will take it forward. Between NHRD and corporate India, this becomes a movement. I'm really proud to say that over 110 companies have signed up to play their part in making conversations around mental health normal. Each of these companies that have signed up have received a toolkit. Okay, this toolkit will enable them to build awareness within their companies. It has, as you can see, communication material with like posters, newsletters, and such, as well as a plethora of curated relevant subject material on mental health. We are also having a short certification program for mental health ambassadors within the organizations to take the message forward internally. This Mind Matters campaign has been put together by a group of dedicated people, NHRD staff, volunteer members, the design team Full Key, our knowledge partner White Swan Foundation, speakers for this wonderful week that we are going to have this week have readily agreed to give their time for the cause. Yeah, as you can see, we have a full week of fantastic sessions on different aspects of mental health. Please go to the website and click on the links. Each session link will take you to a little blurb on what that session's about, and you can register for it. LinkedIn Learning has been generous in providing free access to, otherwise these courses are paid courses on the LinkedIn Learning site. Up to 14th of October, they've offered it free of charge. Please go in. I think the only criteria is that you need to be a LinkedIn member, or go into your LinkedIn and you can access these courses. We are proud to have White Swan Foundation as our knowledge partner. They've curated much of the material that we have. They're committed to the cause of literacy, which is what this journey is all about in the area of mental health. So with that, it's my privilege and honor to now formally launch the Mind Matters Week. Thank you, Nikita. Over to you.
Thank you, Devika. To start the Mind Matters Week, we have a very interesting session on basic mental health awareness. But before we get started, some housekeeping rules. We have muted all the lines for the entire session. If you have any question, either you can type it on the questions window, or you can raise your hand and we will prioritize live questions when we will unmute your line and you can ask your question. We will also share a feedback form on the chat window at the end of the session. Please do share your feedback. That will help us plan the entire week. Do tweet and share your experience by tagging NHRDN and hashtag NHRDN Mind Matters. This is a movement and we are all allies in this movement. I'm a mental health ally and so are all the people in the core team. We would encourage all of you to also become mental health allies and just spread the movement by sharing this badge on your social media accounts. With this, now we start the first session, which is the Mental Health Awareness 101. This session would cover basics about what is mental health, what is stress, how do you cope, with all this change and working from home, when do you seek help and who do you seek help from. And we have Manoj Chandran, this founding CEO of White Swan Foundation for Mental Health, which is a non-profit organization incorporated with the mission to deliver knowledge services on mental health and well-being. White Swan Foundation was founded in 2014 and has developed India's largest knowledge repository on mental health for public. They run several community outreach and mass communication programs to educate people on mental health and well-being. Manoj has over 25 years of experience in a wide range of areas that include journalism, communication, marketing, strategy, and leadership. We're also very happy that White Swan Foundation has partnered with us and they are a knowledge partner, and all the material that you see as part of the campaign has been curated by them. With this, I would now like to hand it over to Manoj to take over the session.
Thank you, Nikita, and thank you, Devika. It's a privilege to be speaking to the members of the NHRD on this occasion when we are launching Mind Matters, a very special campaign that NHRD has curated and designed to make mental health a priority among organizations. So this is such an important and such an urgent area that we should bring into the fold of our corporate world, into our work life, and also understand mental health from different perspectives. So thank you so much, and welcome to the first session. And what we plan to do over the next 45 minutes is to understand mental health and mental illness from varied perspectives. You know, when we speak about mental health, we usually have a very our own notions and our own beliefs surrounded by the topic, because this has been passed on to us. This whole notions have been passed on to us through generations, and we have never questioned it. And we need to really begin to confront what are those notions. And the idea of this 1 hour is to understand what are those notions that we carry within ourselves. I want to start with a short movie that we had filmed a few years ago, and this is one where you will find people expressing their views about mental health, about mental illness, and about those with mental illness. The movie starts, and it's very interesting because many of the answers reflect our views also. The first question that you'll find people answering is, how do you think people with mental illness look like? So listen and tune into this film, and should you feel that the volume is a little low, please increase the volume at your end.
What do they look like? Ugly face, proper dress. They're not normal like us. Abnormal activities. They won't be clean.
They may look like a bit scary.
Do you think you will ever have mental illness? No. Why? I'm strong. Do you think you will ever get a mental illness? No, Bob. No. Why? Why? Because I'm happy. That's why.
losing a lot of weight, and I had trouble being still, relaxing. I had trouble resting basically. So no matter what I did, I always felt like there was so much more to do. I couldn't sleep.
Okay.
But it's not like I was getting work done either, right? So I was worrying about work, unable to sleep, but not able to really make progress with it.
That's probably one of the biggest challenges I've had to face. That stark feeling of loneliness where it just felt like there's nobody that you can count on who's within reach, and that became a little scary in between. And but yeah, I think having had it addressed, it's really reset me in my rhythm.
I went through a really bad phase of anxiety. My blood pressure would just drop, just like that without any good reason. I wasn't able to eat. I'd sit down at the dining table with the rest of the family, and I'd probably not even have like 2 spoonfuls, but I would have to excuse myself and go and lie down. I couldn't sleep well. It's very hard to explain, but on the outside, if you looked at me, I came across as any sane person. I would go out with friends. I would be in touch with family. I was doing a great job at work. The children loved me. But the thing is, I was really fighting anxiety day in and day out.
That is when it kind of, the depression went to the peak, and I couldn't handle. One day, I was like coping every day. I'm like, yeah, I can deal with it. One day, I just like couldn't get out of bed, and that's it. I didn't even make a call. Usually, I'm a particular person who would, follow the rules and regulations and all. But I just didn't feel like calling the HR or my manager and informing that I'm not coming. I just didn't do anything. So that's what, was a kind of a call saying that yes, your mind is not okay, your mental health is not okay, you need help.
In our clinical experience, we find that ignorance leads to a lot of problems. We see people who do not come to the attention of a mental health professional right at the beginning of illness because they did not know that it was a mental health problem.
I do know that the stigma is real, and I do know that a lot of people are very shy, or I would say the better word would be are frightened to talk about this particular aspect because they're afraid it will affect their prospects.
To identify that this is actually a clinical mental illness. It's not just you acting up, or this is not just you not being in control. This is not you just not being strong enough. This is a panic disorder, or this is a depressive disorder or an illness. If you're saying that I have odd 3,500 psychiatrists in the country, and I'm guessing most of them are in urban areas, and 92% of the population is getting no help at all, then awareness is the first step. We forget about treating the illness. That's like step number 10. Being even aware that there is a problem, this could be an illness that has actually 100% treatment.
We need more people to share their stories. I want people to come up and say, I have depression. And I don't want people to be laughed at. I don't want people to be scorned. We should not have disdain. We should have empathy. So yes, informed professionals, informed people, informed survivors, informed caregivers is the need of the hour.
So that was a film which really holds the mirror on us about our views on mental health and our attitude towards those with mental health issues. Why are we discussing? I thought it's important for us to cover this question about why are we discussing mental health today in our world. And you have seen that increasing. This is a topic which is increasingly becoming visible. You know, like Devika pointed out in her inaugural speech, that this problem is closer to us than ever before. And I don't have to really dwell deeper into it. And we need to really begin to understand what is it that we could do for ourselves and that of others, the mental health issues that others who are dear to us may be facing in their lives. And you know, the interesting thing about mental health, where probably mental health issues distinguishes from other physiological health issues, that the decisions are mostly based on our notions and views on mental health and illnesses. And here is one health area where each one of us is a stakeholder. We can't just say that those with mental health issues and those who are caregivers to them are the stakeholders and we have nothing to do about this space. Because we carry a view, because we have a notion, a set of notions, our actions and inactions make us a stakeholder of mental health issues. And like Devika pointed out, most of us with mental health issues will never receive treatment. Now that's like alarming. That cannot be accepted. A lot of challenges of mental health lie in the social space. This is another reason why we are speaking about mental health issues. Many health issues probably can be addressed from a clinical perspective and services infrastructure being improved. But mental health is one area where we have to really understand the challenges and address them from a social perspective, which is about us. And we can, and which is why we are speaking about it today, that we can come together to address some of these, or many of these challenges. Broadly and quickly, we need to understand what is mental health. You know, there are many definitions that you find about mental health issues, but it is about essentially the inner state of a person's mind, which can include our emotions and thoughts. It can be behavioral in nature. It can be about our emotions that we carry, and it can also be about our cognitive abilities sometimes, because that gets impacted because of mental health issues also. And the interesting thing about mental health, and this is again one notion that we carry, that mental health issue or mental illness is about black or white or positive or negative. It isn't the case. There usually is would be a spectrum of intensity. So when somebody tells us that there is a mental health issue, understand that it is not a positive or negative or a black or white situation, but it is the whole spectrum in which anywhere we could be lying if we were to be having a mental health issue. Sometimes we feel that, you know, we'll say that I'm feeling very depressed today. That doesn't necessarily mean that I have a mental health issue today, just because I have the emotion that I'm carrying for just today. It's very important to understand when do we begin to address a situation as a mental health issue. Determinants of mental health. Many a time people begin to ask that, where does mental health issues come up? Why do they come up? There are psychiatrists and mental health experts will tell us there are 3 broad reasons why we may have a propensity to get a mental health issue. First is biological factor, which means that the genes that have been passed on to us, which we have very little control on, would dominate the possibility of us getting a mental health issue. Psychological factor, which means the way our brains, individual brains are wired, many a time they can be reasons as to why we may get a mental health issue. But most importantly, environmental or social factors are also one of the reasons why we may get a mental health issue. Why they are the most important one? Because they perhaps is the only one of the 3 reasons where we may have some control on. So if we can really provide the right environment, social environment for those with mental health issues, or those who may be at high risk of getting a mental health issue, we may possibly be able to stop the advent of mental health issue at that point. And this is another thing we must understand, because one of the key things that we ask from every stakeholder of mental health care is empathy. And for us to be empathizing with somebody who has a mental health issue, we must understand what are the different struggles they go through. Of course, there is this whole struggle which are related to the symptoms they are going through based on the illnesses they have. But more than that, like we pointed out, social factors are really, really big and challenging. One of the first kind of reaction of a person with a mental health issue, particularly common mental health issues like depression and many others, would be about fear and shame. Oh my God, if others come to know, and many other reasons why fear and shame become the first reaction of a person with mental health issue. Then there's a whole spree of actions and inactions that follow that, which are again based on our lack of knowledge, lack of understanding of what I may be going through, or our dear ones may be going through. Myths govern a lot of actions. We have a lot of myths around mental health issues. Lack of knowledge among those around them. And you may have seen this, you may have heard of tons of stories about family members convincing the person with mental health issue that there is a problem there. I think you're thinking about it, and maybe we can handle it together ourselves. And entire kind of first responders not being able to detect the early signs of a mental health issue. And this is so important in mental health issues, because experts tell us the early we are able to detect, the better the chance of recovery for that person. What is the result of all this? They invariably delay the possibility of somebody reaching to a mental health professional. It is said that in most cases of mental health issues, it takes years for a person to decide to eventually come in front of a mental health expert. Years, can you believe that? Again, as I said, that there is usually a non-supportive social environment, because again, it is born out of lack of knowledge. There is, of course, like Devika pointed out, huge lack of access to services and lack of inclusive work environment when we particularly look at workplace mental health. Before I get into mental health and the workplace, one more aspect I would really want you to understand, and I have really found it useful. I don't come from a mental health expertise from a clinical perspective, but one way to understand and empathize with those with mental health issue is to look at from a disability perspective. Now, as colleagues, we always have been able to see our co-workers at some point in time with some kind of temporary or permanent disabilities. There may be an instance where my colleague would have come with a broken arm, and I know what to do, because that person is temporarily disabled in some way for some aspect of the work, and I may be able to chip in to be able to address the disability there. Why? Because I know what my role is, I know what the disability is, and I can demonstrate empathy. In the case of mental health issue, it is important to probably look at from a disability perspective. Understanding that the person has a mental health issue, understanding that there is a temporary or a permanent or a long-term, not necessarily permanent, but a long-term disability that may probably set in or has set in. I know what I can do, as an ally, as a caregiver, as a colleague, it really helps. It really helps not just the person with the problem to make the right decision, but to be able to create the right social environment at workplace. So disability is a very, very good perspective, very good way to look at it, because we already have built empathy towards those who may probably show some kind of disability or inability to carry out certain tasks. So with that, I really wanted to address mental health at workplace. Devika pointed out a whole lot of figures about why mental health is so important in today's world. More particularly, I think it is important to look at mental health from workplace. You know, I was recently looking at a report from Accenture, and we always believe that about 50% of people at workplace may have a mental health issue or other. But the Accenture report, which just came out a few months ago, said that nearly 90% of employees may have been touched by mental health challenges, either personally or through someone they know. Can you believe that? Nearly 100% of the workforce today are touched by mental health issues in some or other way. 66% have personally experienced challenges. So this is a report which came a few months ago. And again, Devika pointed out that in the COVID world, in the pandemic world, in the drastically changed social environment that we are all living in, chances are that this is significantly higher than 66%. 85% know someone who has experienced mental health challenges. 85%. So we are practically talking about addressing mental health care from the entire workforce. We are no longer talking about mental health for a small cluster of workforce in the organization who until now have been hidden, and they've been coping with the problem by themselves because we've never created an environment for them to speak out and reach out and seek help. We did a survey, White Swan Foundation did a survey about a couple of years ago with about 800 employees sample size. They said that 56% of them said that they had a mental health issue. This is India specific report, so more closer to the ground, but it is not very different from the 66% that Accenture reports. 36% would not approach. This is an important insight for us. 36% said that they would not approach anyone when in distress, and 44% people said that they would reach out to only a trusted colleague. Almost half of them said that they won't be able to find the right person to reach out, at least at workplace. Clearly demonstrating why we have such a huge, what they call treatment gap in mental health. This is from a data perspective, but there are many other reasons why we should look at workplace mental health issues or mental health care from a workplace. One, of course, because nearly, and this is often used, this data is often used, that nearly half of our waking life is spent at our offices or amidst our work colleagues. And so this is so important that we are trying to understand what are the issues we are going through, we are touched by. Mental health and substance issue disorder is the leading cause of disability globally. This is the WHO data from the Global Burden of Diseases a few years ago. Clearly, you can see one of the leading factor of disability and how much we have not been able to address this, how much it has been away from our eyes, away from our radars. Our workplaces, this is another interesting perspective as to why we must look at mental health from a workplace. One, to be able to address those who already have mental health issues, but secondly, to also look at mental health from the perspective that workplaces can many a times be a trigger for our mental health issues also. And we have to be able to build the ability to detect those triggers. Organizations are large communities that can affect change. Now, because large part of the challenges of mental health care is that lie in the social space. And workplace are interesting communities which are captive, where we can really do a lot of things and which can begin to show that we can make effective changes in the community. We may probably want to see workplaces as a great clusters of communities where we are able to demonstrate changes, demonstrate marked difference in the way we are able to address mental health issues. So it is extremely important that we are talking about mental health. We are talking about mental health care. We're talking about mental illnesses in an open manner and allowing spaces for those with mental health issues at workplaces so that they reach out, they get the safe space, to open up and speak without expecting any adverse reaction among co-workers and colleagues. This was a topic that Devika and Srini pointed out that we must cover. Certainly on the top of our mind. We have been working on mental health care for the last 6 years, 6.5 years now. In around late March, when we began getting into the lockdown phase, immediately a lot of organizations and a lot of our audiences started coming to us and said that, please help us understand mental health care from a COVID perspective. We reached out to mental health care experts, and they corroborated our belief. They reflected, they said that there is a drastic increase in mental health issues, particularly in the change scenario. And it is important for us to understand, how do we take care of ourselves as individuals who probably will have to lead a similar kind of challenging times for the next nearly 1 more year. I don't know, it's so uncertain a time at this moment. What are we expecting in the current situation? So, you know, I mean, you'll agree that because of the pandemic and because of the social changes that have been asked of us due to the pandemic, there is a lot of stress, there is a lot of pressure on us to be able to cope with, to be able to lead a very different kind of lifestyle. There is fear, clearly there is fear. And again, mental health care professionals point out that we all are, you know, tuned to, we are all designed to be able to handle fear in for a short span of time. We know what to do, and fear is a good emotion to have because we know exactly what to do. But we are not tuned to be able to handle fear for a long period of time, which is when mental health issues begin to step in. And this is one of the reasons why, because COVID-19 and the kind of social challenges that we are currently dealing with is pushing fear, pushing anxiety to us for a long, prolonged period of time, which we are not tuned to, which we have not built ability to handle. There is shock sometimes, there is shock in many ways. From the data that comes to us, from the news that comes to us about how close the problem has come to us, and many other ways. There is shock. There is constant worry about not just the pandemic, and we know there is worry about the broader social aspect, the family, the children, and many things. There is a huge amount of confusion, and we are often overwhelmed by all this. We don't know what exactly we could do, and they all lead us to be able to an emotion, the set of emotions that we are not adept to, we are not trained to be able to handle. So there is an emotion that comes out, which are constant worry about our health, not knowing what the situation might look like. There is uncertainty, which is again not a good situation, because we are not again trained to handle uncertainty for a long period of time. There is a lot of transition, there is a lot of compromise that we have made in our social life. There is a huge range of way, all the stress that we are taking, that is manifesting of the current social changes that we are leading with, which can manifest into mental health issues, and also physical issues. Many a time you'll find that we are not able to handle temporary stress, but there is also a lot of physical changes that you'll find. You'll find heart and lung functions affected, heartburns, a digestive system problem, blood pressure, sugar level increase, and muscle tension increase, and many other physiological problems that you'll begin to see which you haven't had a past experience of. These are great way to detect that I think I need help. They're not, so we will have physical pain sometimes. They need not necessarily be about a physical problem, but could be because of our emotions that we are not able to handle. So here are a few things that we would want you to take away about how to handle today's scenario. Prioritize our mental health. It is so important. Before we begin to understand that I need to do something as an ally for the world around mental health care, what am I doing about my own mental health? What am I doing about our family's mental health? Stay physically healthy. This is an interesting thing. There is a strong correlation between physical health and mental health. For us to stay mentally healthy, we need to also stay physically healthy. Spend time on activities that recharge you. You may have heard about this a lot. You may have read a lot of content about this, but they all lead to the first point. You won't be able to do anything about building activities that recharge you unless you have prioritized mental health in your life. This is something we must proactively do for ourselves. Stay connected with families and friends, something which is so difficult in current times, but yet so easy because technologies allow us to do that. Follow sleep routines. Sleep, we have been repeatedly told by mental health experts, is one of the biggest, most important reasons, as important as staying physically healthy in maintaining our mental health and mental well-being. So make sure that we are getting good quality and good quantity of sleep. News, consuming content and news which are healthy. It is something you may have come across, where we have to draw our personal borders, personal lines, and saying that we are not allowing these borders, these lines to be crossed by ourselves and anyone who I know. Seek support. This is the least understood, least and most ignored aspect of mental health care. We think that I think I can handle it. No, just as a small pain comes up physiologically, and we don't wait for and we don't wait and say that I think I'll handle it and let me see if it still is there after for a fortnight or more than that. And all. We shouldn't do that with mental health issues also similarly. If there is a situation which is staying with you for more than 2 weeks, you're not able to handle, it is not going away, immediately reach out. Tell about the problem to your dear ones, seek professional help, and find remedies, because most mental health issues are treatable. Working from home. There is a lot of content about it, and you may have heard about what we can do. It is about essentially building discipline. There is a lot about we can speak. I'm going to be a little quick on this, making sure that we are leading as disciplined a life about working from home as we do about when we were going to offices, and making sure that our work life was very disciplined. Continue to have friends, build a social active social life, make sure that your work life or work time period, timelines are as strict as it used to be at offices. Don't forget your breaks and leave. Many a time this is something that we're not able to, because we don't know when weekends are coming, that I have actually my annual leave and all. We can plan many things around it. And also check in with your colleagues regularly. We can do this. A simple phone call to your colleagues sometimes to say, hi, how are you and how are things with you, can really change someone's life. Of course, we have to understand how do we deal it at a family end. And families, we are told, are struggling in being able to handle the current situation because of many reasons, and we know what they are. So one, to clearly build compartments about leading our work life within the homes and our social life, our family life also within the four walls of the home is a difficult one, but we have to build that. Build great communication, continue to have communication about your work schedules to your family. Respect each other's personal space. This is something which we have been told many a time that very difficult, but we must be able to respect each other's space. And signs that you may need help. Like I pointed out, that there is stress. The stress is for a long time. You're not able to handle it. There is nausea or physiological problem that you see. Don't wait. Reach out, speak out. You can start with a general physician, but you must certainly reach out. See, signs that you need help from an emotion perspective: recurring anger, inability to relax, snapping at others, increased fear, inability to concentrate. I have found that many a time. Early part of the pandemic, I found it difficult to be able to concentrate. Urge to hoard, because we feel that these are uncertain times. Constant anxiety. This is something that we are all leading our life with. And don't believe that I can cope with it, I can manage it, I can handle it. you must reach out, seek professional help. You may have wondered that this is the 20th time Manoj has pointed this out, but I can tell you that the more I'm speaking, the more we are told that this is one aspect that nobody wants to take seriously, and we must change our people, at least to begin with ourselves and our dear ones, to say that I'm going to reach out and seek help. On White Swan Foundation's portal, you find a whole list of places you can reach out to. There are free helplines, more specifically on COVID-19 also. Parivartan in Bangalore, TIS in Bombay runs an iCall helpline, very specific to COVID-19 related emotional distresses also. You can reach out, as I said, to begin with a general physician or a psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor, whoever you can. And if you're finding it difficult to get access to a mental health professional, start with telling about your problems to your family and making sure that the family members really know how to handle it. It's so important to pick up the right information and right knowledge about what we could do. Being an ally. This is the last part of my presentation here. You know, as I pointed out in the early part of my presentation, that in mental health care, and mental health care space is so uniquely positioned that every single individual is a stakeholder of mental health care. You know, in a cubicle of 10 colleagues, if there is a person who has a mental health issue, that person's action, as I was mentioning in the early slides, will of course depend on the kind of belief and knowledge the person has, but it also depends on the attitude other 9 colleagues within the cubicle carry about those with mental health issues. And without us knowing, if we are among the 9 people, without us knowing, that person with mental health issue may have tried to check what our views on mental health is, what our attitudes towards those with mental health issues are. And that person's action or inaction or decision to hide with the problem will depend on how we have expressed our views. So imagine every time we probably express our view which are not very positive, we have lost an opportunity to be an ally to the person with the mental health issue. So we are essentially talking about creating a world where everyone is a mental health ally. So first is to permit yourself, to give yourself the permission to say that I understand the importance the importance I have, the power I hold in the mental health care space. I must change the whole dynamics of mental health care, particularly within the workplace that I'm part of. Checking in on your colleagues and friends. It's not an easy one. I mean, it sounds very simple, but how do we begin to communicate? What is the kind of questions I could ask? What do I do if there is a certain kind of signal that I'm seeing, a certain kind of possibility that I'm seeing of mental health issue among my colleagues, among my peers, or co-workers at offices? Ask them about how they are doing is important, and check in with those who may be more vulnerable. This is an important one, because while I pointed out about situations where you may be able to see signs of mental health issues, of emotional distress, but most often those signs may not exist at all. And therefore, it is important for us to have the right knowledge to say that I think this person, given the knowledge that I have, given the kind of understanding that I have built as an ally about mental health care, this person stands the risk of getting a mental health issue. And you know, being an ally is not an easy one. There is a lot of stress that we may take on ourselves, and we will want to get into being an ally only after we have said that I have prioritized mental health, about my own mental health. So self-care is one of the first principles about being an ally. And once we know how to be, what we need to do about self-care, we can then begin to do. It's like about, you know, wearing the mask for yourself before you put the mask on your child in the flight. As I pointed out, workplace mental health is one of perhaps most promising communities that we can look at from bringing in transformative changes on mental health care. And that requires champions. So there is an opportunity for you to move from being an ally, which is an extremely crucial role, to become a champion of mental health care within the community, which is about your workplace, which is because championing is about creating mindset shifts among colleagues. It's about creating social spaces that are safe for those with mental health issues. It is about decreasing the treatment gap that exists, making sure that should we know of a colleague who has a mental health issue, there is a greater chance that the person will reach out eventually to a mental health care professional. I'm going to just run this for 2 minutes about what we do at White Swan. This is something you will get to know about who we are as an organization. We have been in this space for nearly 7 years now, and handling the whole aspect of empowering people on mental health care. So please take a look. So the UR, which was about White Swan, a not-for-profit organization that we had created with a mission to empower people with the right knowledge so that they make informed decisions on mental health care. We are very strongly present on the social media space also, and so do be in touch with us so that you are constantly updated about the various facets of mental health care and your role as an ally. And we're so thankful to NHRD for being able to think about mental health as an extremely important priority and help and enable the organization, member organizations of NHRD as part of the Mind Matters campaign to begin making the journey towards employee mental health care. And we look forward to a continued partnership with NHRD in helping organizations build a vision towards employee mental health care. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Look forward to taking questions from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Manoj, for partnering with us and also, being a strong advocate for this cause. I definitely agree that we need more and more companies to talk about it. So these sessions are not just open for NHRD members; they're open, across all the companies. So 110 plus companies have signed up. Their employees. It's open for family. We want more and more people to talk about this. Before we open it up for Q&A, and you can raise your hand and ask a question, or you can type it on the chat window. To create that movement, like we mentioned earlier, and just to reiterate, we have these awareness sessions. We have it again tomorrow and on Thursday. It's by a different organization, the Mental Health First Aiders organization. Every day from 4 to 5:30, we also have deep dive sessions on a topic. So today is on suicide and self harm, and you can see all the details of these sessions on our website. We also have people sharing their own stories about mental health, because it's just not about knowledge, it's also about people who have gone through mental health challenges talk about how did they overcome. So on Tuesday and on Thursday at 6:30, we have three people, Parimal, Rashi and Melina, talk about how did they fight their mental health challenges. And we have a couple of other sessions like corporate panels and mindfulness sessions. So do sign up. Do encourage all your employees to sign up as well. We want to, awareness is the first step, and this is the first step into creating this movement. Today we have these two sessions. At 2:30 we have the heartfulness session, and at 4 o'clock we have a deep dive panel by these two experts on suicide and self-harm. So do register and encourage others also to register for that. With that, I would now like to open it up for Q&A. There is a feedback link that has been shared on the chat window. Please share your feedback. It's important for us and important to create that movement as well. Also, do share it on your social media accounts, with this hashtag, which you can see on the screen. In case any of you want to become an NHRD member, all the details are on our website and you can see that. So in case anyone has any questions, raise your hand and we'll unmute your line and we'll, take your questions.
There are a
There
few
are some,
questions in the
on the chat window.
chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So
just
shall
looking
I
at
just
that.
read out them out?
Sure. You can read it out, Devika.
So one is, are there any self-assessment tests that could help detect some of the underlying issues? How do I know if I need help?
Thank you, Devika, for bringing this up. So there are a lot of assessment tests to begin with. There are a few self-assessment tests also that mental health experts point out too. But what we have understood from experts of mental health care is that the first action from us would be to reach out to a mental health professional. Because not all these self-assessment tests may necessarily be able to tell us or give a result which is foolproof. So it is best to reach out to a professional and let the professional tell us that we should go through an assessment tool of a kind or other. Now, what are the signs that we may require help? The two aspects to it. One is the disability angle. If we are able to find that there is an emotional issue that I'm facing, which is not allowing me to lead my life in the way I used to lead, or I'm expected to lead. It is really hampering my work life, sometimes personal life, in whatever way, whatever intensity. Even it could be an extremely small way, but if it is hampering our life, we must say that I think there is an emotional distress that has set in and I need help. We don't have to really always give the name of mental illness to the problems that we go through. So for instance, just to give an example, I may be finding it difficult to manage my anger. Now, I may be able to lead my life. I can do all that thing in the best possible way, but I have anger issues which I'm not able to handle. I may require I may require help for that emotion called anger, and therefore reach out to mental health experts. So, so understanding that there is a disability that is set in because of an emotional reasons, I need to therefore reach out. Second is, we are also told that if the problem, the emotional problem stays with us for more than 2 weeks, then we know that it is not going to go away by itself, and it is not connected. It may not be necessarily connected to a recent incidents, and therefore we should reach out to a mental health expert.
Thank you, Manoj.
Thank you.
There are a few more questions. Somebody's asked, what knowledge and skills do staff learn in the champions training?
So, so Champions program is something that White Swan Foundation has developed after a lot of research done with the mental health experts on one hand, and a few organizations who really wanted to bring in some kind of mental health strategy, employee mental health strategy within their employees. And this is a one-day program that we have developed for those who really want to champion the cause of mental health care. What we try and explain through the program is about how do you build a vision for employee mental health within the organization? What are the changes that you should try and put as an objective for the team who want to champion employee mental health care within the organization? How do you build policies around it? How do you look at the current policies and say that there is a need for us to tweak those? How do you create the right social environment, and how do you build a strong communication strategy? How do you involve the leadership of the organization to be the sponsors of employee mental health within your organization? So all this we cover in the one-day course of championing mental health care within your organization.
Great, thank you. Just like we have certain parameters to gauge the normalcy in the realm of physical health, like BP, sugar, etc., do we have any similar markers which will define normalcy in terms of mental health? Are there any diagnostic tests which can be taken on a periodic basis?
So I don't know of any diagnostic tools or assessment tools which will tell us that, okay, I think I'm emotionally well. You know, the best example of the best definition of mental health is that of the World Health Organization, which says that it is a state of well-being where every individual realize their own potential and can cope with the normal stressors of life and can work productively and fruitfully and contribute to the society they are part of. One of the important elements here is cope with the normal stressors of life, and that can be a great indicator of our well-being. So if let's say I had a tough situation, let's say exam results are coming out, and I am able to cope with that stress that I'm going through, which I'm expected to go through because exam results are coming today, then I know that my mental health issues, there aren't any mental health issues. But if that exam results anxiety is prolonged and is really hampering my functions, then I know that I may not be able to build what is called emotional resilience to jump out of that anxiety that I have, or I may be expected to have because the exam results are coming out. So if we are not able to jump out of an adverse situation from an emotional perspective, then we know that we may probably require. Now, not everything is about, as I pointed, not everything is about mental illness, but I may require help. Many a time we reach out to a counselor or a therapist because I just need help. That does not, even the therapist will not ever use the word that I think you have mental illness or mental health issue. So it is so important that we don't wait for a name to be given to our problem.
Thank you, Manoj. Nikita, do you want, are you looking at people whose hands are up? There are a few more questions in the question box.
No one has raised the hand, so we can look at probably one or two more questions because we are on time at 1. So probably one or two more questions.
Actually.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
There are some questions on recording. So yes, just wanted to just answer that. So we are recording this and this will be uploaded on our YouTube channel by the end of the day today. So in case you want to share it or you want to, see it again, you can do that. There was another question on the mental health awareness sessions tomorrow and on Thursday. So yeah, we have by Mental Health First Aiders organization tomorrow at 12 noon and on Thursday at 12 noon. So you can attend that as well.
Okay, there are some generic questions of, how do we face the neo-normal situation? What are organizations doing about mental health in India and abroad? How do we assess who really needs help? Those are the specific ones. The others I can answer directly.
Yeah, Devika. So Devika, I think the first step to, in fact, a broader kind of answer to that encompass all these questions would be about taking the first step to really unlearn the kind of belief or understanding we always have had about mental health and mental illness. Unlearning is about really picking up the right knowledge, acquiring the right knowledge, and we have seen that repeatedly. We have seen that how our decisions are based on notions and beliefs. So which is why, I mean, we really encourage people to reach out to the portal, whiteswanfoundation.org, and go through the content, all kinds of content. We have extremely carefully curated the content to make sure that that is relevant and contextual for the mass, for the general public, for people like us, and in different languages. And the number of people who come and seek knowledge, we haven't been doing any kind of promotion there. So it's so important that we acquire knowledge and remove those notions we have carried. Then we begin to say that, what can I do for my organization? How do I detect? And what are the various things? Particularly on COVID and mental health, there's tons of knowledge that we have built over the last 5 to 6 months. You will get to know about how to deal with the current new normal.
Thank you, Manoj. Some of the other questions I'm trying to answer directly on the chat thing itself. Yeah. How do we, this is a broad spectrum question, how do we stay healthy mentally?
So there is a slide that I brought up, if you remember. There are a few things we must do. One, you know, I use this analogy of cucumber actually. You know, people keep saying that eating cucumber is so healthy. And how many times in our life articles of that nature we have consumed? And how many times have we been able to really follow those? Eat this, that will be very healthy. Now, particularly in these days, do this for building immunity. How many times we are able to follow those? So you will find a lot of articles about how do you stay mentally healthy, and you'll find that content on the portal too. But everything will start only when we have begun to prioritize mental health and mental well-being. We don't have to wait for that one unforeseen situation to say, oh my God, no, I'm going to from tomorrow onwards take care of my mental well-being. Let's not do that. Let's be preventive. Preventive aspect in healthcare is so important. Everything else will fall in place. The moment you wake up on a day to say that this is the beginning of my mental well-being initiatives, everything about eating healthy, doing exercises, staying socially active are all about mental health and mental well-being.
I think we are 4 minutes over time, so let's wrap up the questions. In case you have any questions, do write to us, and we are more than happy to answer your queries later. With this, we would want to wrap up this session, and like we said, this is just the first step in creating awareness. Do sign up for our other sessions, the next one at 2:30 p.m. and then at 4 p.m. and do spread the word, share stories, and be a mental health ally like Manoj shared. We all can play our own role by being mental health allies. Visit our website, all the information is there up, and you can reach out to any one of us in case you want to know more about it and join this movement with us. With that, from the entire team of NHRD Mind Matters core team, we would like to thank you, Manoj, once again, and thank all of you. We had around 400 people join us today for the session. Thank you everyone for joining the session. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you, Nikita. Thank you, Devika.
Thank you.